When we get to talking about older people, and do a good job of it. When we think about doing the right thing with respect and dignity for older people, what happens is systems need to be created, but those systems and the work we do actually ends up benefiting the whole community. So this isn't a sink, this is an opportunity. And that's what we are here to talk about today. So the political economic situation is that we need to reduce the costs of medical care and caregiving. There's some evidence, not a lot of evidence, but pretty good intuitive evidence that homes are a more economical place to take care of people. They're certainly a more pleasant place to take care of people. And studies show, and it's really important, that there's a much higher preference for people to live at home throughout the end of their life, throughout their whole lives, even if they need assistance, even if they have health changes. And that's where the CAPS thing comes in. I'm a carpenter and a contractor. 1991, I decided to focus my contracting business on aging in place remodeling. In about 96 or 97, I started teaching about it. And shortly after that, I started to ask the huge question, which I'm still trying to get the answer to, which is, if this is such a good idea, why doesn't anybody call? And that's really a huge question. How many people here have prepared their home with no steps, curbless showers, grab bars, etc.? I have, okay? And there's a good many of us who are in the range of potentially requiring or getting real value out of those things. So that's what CAPS is all about. But all of these things, particularly this preference, the economics of the situation, the caregiving, the huge numbers of the population, the fact that we can't possibly build enough beds in assisted living points to aging in place. And then there's a study. Does somebody work the clicker here? So this study from Clarity says, it's pretty clear. It says that 26% of people fear losing their independence. This is over a certain age. I don't remember what it was. But only 3% fear losing their life. So when we turn ourselves or our relatives into a nursing home, we are actually taking them to a fate worse than death, in their own opinion. And aging in place is kind of a solution to that idea that it's a fate worse than death. So I guess I have to operate this, right? What I came to talk about today is that that can't happen in isolation. It's not about your home alone, because you need to get out. You need all kinds of things. It's about the community, as well as the fact of the potential benefits for the community. So a livable community, a lot of organizations, I think AARP is one of them, speak about this in terms of a livable community. And they talk about a livable community has to do with places to go, retail, spiritual, and recreational. You got to go places where you can buy things and where you can do things. That's a community. That's a place where you want to be. It's about working transportation options, and that means your schedule, not theirs. So there's something you can look up called the Independent Transportation Network, which recognizes this. Just because you're old and you can't drive doesn't mean you want to spend 4 hours on a bus getting to an appointment. The transportation system has to work for the people who use it, caregiver-centric, client-centric, not transportation system-centric. It's not about making up a schedule. It's about getting people to places with respect and dignity. And then appropriate and affordable lifetime homes, homes that are risk-reducing and sustainable. And that's my background, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And serving older residents this way is a catalyst for enhancing the whole community. And that's kind of our thesis today. I have another note here I was supposed to read. It would be reasonable enough for us to talk about the remodeling of homes and so forth, and I'm going to mention that. But it's much more important, really, for us to talk about the way that this can be better for the community. If you're more interested in the part about the homes and services, from my point of view, I wrote a paper for MetLife Mature Marketing Institute last year called Aging in Place 2.0. I encourage you to check that out. Our panel is going to talk about this as well. And Chuck Parker is going to talk from Continua, is going to talk about how the need to connect people at all stages of their life and the ability to connect them has a benefit for the individual, but for the community as well. Because, you know, I was speaking to a guy named Alex Kaye from AT&T yesterday, and he made it kind of clear to me, if you can engage people in their health care, then we can all save money on medical science, right? So that connection is really important. And Alex Go is going to talk about virtual health. His company, which is really, I think, very special in that it has a whole partnership arrangement organized. He's going to tell you about it. But the idea is that if you can connect people to the services that they need as they need them in a real-time fashion, it has benefits for those people in the home. It has benefits for the caregiver, like people were just talking about. But it has benefits for all of us because their health will be better and they'll be happier. So it benefits the whole community. And Adam Vollmer is kind of the odd duck in this panel, and I'm really excited that he came here. Adam's from IDEO, and he's going to talk to us about connecting people in other ways, in particular through the new Faraday bike that he was just involved in designing and winning an award for, about a bicycle that helps connect people from their homes to other parts of their community. And Fred is going to talk about some connections on the screen and the actual internet connections and making it simple so that it really works for people. So we know about older people. We know about this politics. We talked about that clarity study. And now, if we can get this to go forward. There we go. So I'm going to talk just momentarily about some house stuff. So an affordable and appropriate house would be one in which, like these, that there's no steps to get in the door, that the bathroom's a safe place. It enhances you completely. It enhances your life. It doesn't reduce. It probably reduces or helps manage falls. But it also is a home that if it's affordable and sustainable, it means it lasts you a long time. It's the same thing the green movement's talking about. And the nice thing about that home is if it's affordable, if you can live there inexpensively for a long time because it's energy efficient, it becomes a sustainable residence for you. And if we talk about the whole community, we want to talk about a walk and roll community. People who can't drive or don't want to drive want to get to the same places that other people want to get to. So if we can make a place that's safer to walk than riding a scooter on a street like that, then kids can ride their bike to the store, nannies and moms don't have to ride them. All of a sudden people are out on the street and the whole community benefits because we focused on the idea of making it a better place for the older residents. Universal design is this idea. It's for everybody. It's not for that small group of Peter Pan people who are never going to grow old. I don't know how many of you think you're in that group. It's for the fleet of foot, the frail, the young, and the old. And if we feature all those people in our communities, it will be beneficial for all. And then there's corollary benefits, and I think that's really the point. So we all know about curb cuts. Curb cuts were designed for people who use mobility devices, but we all use them for suitcases. We all use them for bicycles. And how many of you were in a football game traveling this weekend or in a bar and reading the football game? Because we have closed captioning designed to take advantage for the people who have some difficulties hearing, but we all use it. And that's a corollary benefit. So my thesis, and that we're going to discuss here today, is that technology and everything that supports the health, dignity, and respect of older citizens benefits all of us. That we just really need to reach into our hearts and do the right thing, and it will be good for everybody all the way down the line.
So this is a little bit more of a statistical informational thing here, too, just to add some color to the commentary, because typically standards are pretty boring conversation once you get into them here. But the reality is, why is Continua around, and what is the whole aspect of why we try to are focused on this area of activity? And as you heard mentioned, what we are focusing on is the entire spectrum of life. So this is actually a birth to death kind of a situation. And how do you manage somebody's health and wellness? So this little graphic here, though, is sort of showing, we all think that we're running around that green line up there. We think that our health is really well and we want to stay as healthy as possible. When in reality, we start declining very rapidly and start running more around the orange line. Now, there's what we call the modified lifestyle area there. It's sort of between those two dotted line areas. And at the bottom dotted line is something called irreversible healthcare states. Those are areas once you've had, let's say, for example, you've had diabetes and you end up with kidney failure, or you end up with perhaps retinopathy, or from a hypertensive, you may have ended up with a stroke at some point, or other illnesses in this case. What we're trying to do is prevent people from getting into those healthcare states, and that is, how do we keep people above that irreversible healthcare state and get them operating as high as they possibly can and keep them back in that up near the green line? That's a huge opportunity for cost savings for us in our healthcare system today, and it truly is focused on how do we get them and maintain them throughout the lifespan. So this is something that we're going to talk a little bit more about from the aging population, because what happens once you do drop below that, or you get into that aging population where you have an elder, frail individual who potentially does need this assistive living technology, and how do you continue to monitor them more effectively without institutionalizing them? How do we keep them home and safe at home much longer in their lifespan? But it really is that 60–80% of that is actually manageable healthcare lifestyles that if we just simply had the tools to understand what is going on with us today, what is going on with our elders tomorrow, so that we can and basically provide them the right types of activities and improvements in their overall lifespan. So really the goal here is to improve that overall healthcare lifespan, and you can see that there are certain chronic conditions that we can focus on that if we have these tools, we simply can actually manage those disease states better and help us improve the overall healthcare of the individual in these healthcare states. So the solution is something we call personal connected health, and that is, how do we get devices, these devices that you can wear that are body worn, that you can take with you. You can use them at home, you can use them at work, you can use them when you're on vacation or at play, and ensure that you can monitor what's going on with the individual. Those tools can be used by, for example, not only the elder at home, which we typically would see from a post-operative acute care follow-up, where they're monitoring, let's say, for example, a heart attack, and you want to make sure that the individual's not gaining weight very suddenly, which is a sign that their heart's not able to move fluid off the lungs. But we can use those exact same tools for somebody who may be a young sports professional athlete who's trying to improve their performance overall as well and want to understand kind of what is their performance like. The same tools can be used for those individuals. So as going back to that whole community of practice, this benefits the entire community by helping it, truly focus on where we have a serious healthcare dollar spend crisis right now in the elder care that we have in the U.S., but carry that through the entire healthcare system and move it back into that point of health and wellness. It's cheaper to keep somebody well than it is to treat them once they are already sick. And our systems today are designed to treat people who are sick, not people who are well. And that's what we're truly focusing on here, is how do we get to that shift and get to that point of being able to help people monitor their healthcare condition overall in their lifespan. So our primary focus is, as you can see here, we do have a very targeted focus on the living independently category, and that is individuals who need to have assistive living in some fashion. They need to have some sort of daily monitoring. They perhaps have to have some level of activity that has to be conditionally managed, in that sense that, let's say, for example, it's medication administration. We didn't know that grandmother did take her pill on time because in some cases these medications are highly sensitive to timing of their delivery. And grandma may actually be at this point having some memory issues and not certain that she did or did not take that particular set of medications. Same thing for other measurements during the day as well. But truly, moving back to that, how do we start to manage those chronic care conditions much earlier so that as we begin to age and age into that population where we have a conditional set of issues, that we don't end up with those who are diabetic already losing feet, already losing organs because of unmanaged diabetes in this case. And then truly get to that shift, as I mentioned earlier, back to health and wellness. How do we manage and keep people healthy and well much longer? So here's the boring part. This is the interface and standards component of this. I'll go quickly. But this is truly something around how do we create that interoperability. So Continua in and of itself was formed about 6 years ago by 22 organizations that now have, we comprise about 250 organizations that are focusing on this interoperability of healthcare devices. So we focus on taking the device itself, creating a standard around that, managing it and connecting it with a wireless radio to a healthcare hub, and then passing that data back into the systems today that either go to a healthcare giver system, meaning it's a monitored system, or directly into healthcare records, which can go into electronic medical record, health information exchanges, or personal healthcare records today. And more we're seeing the PHRs being used by family members as that way and repository of managing somebody's elder care issues overall in the longer term. So what we've done here is create a set of guidelines that standardize that process so that now device manufacturers have a simple way to make sure that they can connect. It makes solutions much more cost effective because now you have interoperability. I can select vendor A or B or C and not have to worry that my device is going to connect in those systems as well in this case. And it helps the larger spectrum because these devices are reusable across the entire spectrum. While I mentioned 3 areas right now, we've actually discovered a 4th that sort of came to us out of Japan recently with the tsunami earthquake, and that is in disaster management and emergency preparedness. Because these devices can be repurposed relatively quickly, we can actually use them in these emergency management situations to treat individuals and triage individuals in this case as well. So that's it. I'm going to pass the mic on at this point. But so Continua in and of itself, just as a quick notice, that we focus on those standards. We create a set of guidelines, and then we certify those devices in the industry. So today there's approximately 56 devices and services that have now been certified by Continua, and we forecast a doubling of that over the next year as well. So, all right.
This is the first time I've ever done a presentation seating. Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Allegrezza. I'm CEO of Virtual Health. A little background about myself. I have a mother who lives alone, is a stroke survivor, hypertensive, diabetic, 6 pills, early dementia. Very common story, right? I also, at a time when Intel Health Care, the division, had an organization, a healthcare, home health group. I ran the market development activity for what's now known as the Guide telehealth platform. About a year ago, 2 years ago, we were approached by a consortium of senior living architects and designers, so very similar to what Lewis was advocating from Perkins Eastman. Brad Perkins, who is a noted authority in senior living, approached us, as well as some high-end residential developers, folks that created what's now called the Ritz-Carlton residence. I'm sure you're familiar with the coinage. Approached us asking about using technology, leveraging technology in order to keep people at home. Ritz said one of the main reasons why people left their residences was not because of the service, but they were forced to live in assisted living, and they wanted to use technology to try to keep them there. And so I got courted to leave Intel. We created Virtual Health about a year ago, and we've now launched. We are a subscription-based consumer service that is a solutions integrator. So we'll take telehealth systems. We'll also partner with healthcare providers in order to establish a monitoring program, as well as independent living and lifestyle modification if necessary. We've got deals already signed with national meals providers. One example is DineWise that ships 100,000 meals a month today across the US. And we're in strategic discussions about transportation, et cetera, right? And so I'm here to kind of introduce to you a whole problem statement and hopefully opportunity such that everyone in this audience can appreciate how we can extract value as a business opportunity, but also as an industry, we have an opportunity to effectively change the face of healthcare amidst all of the regulatory reform, right? Let me just flip through some of these, if I can. Hello. We are in a technology conference, are we not? Oh, thank you. Ah, there it goes. So problem statement. When we looked at the market, we said, well, what's the business strategy around telehealth? It is not reimbursed today. It's, everyone's doing all the different pilots, but how do you pay for systems outside of trying to justify readmission rate improvements, right? We said, we're going to start the company as phase 1 as being a consumer subscription service, while at the same time healthcare reform takes root with patient-centered medical home models. And by the time that becomes the standard of care, we would have already been in place with hopefully tens of thousands of subscribers. And in order to justify this, you have to frame it with the cost of assisted living. As many of you all know, assisted living is not paid for by Medicare, right? Long-term care is not. And on the average, it's $3,000 to $5,000 a month. And that cripples bank accounts. I know because my dad fought cancer and went through the whole process, and I was, and he eventually passed away, but I was the primary caregiver, eldest son, Asian family, right? So the whole problem statement was framed around how do we make sure that the family unit, not just the senior, will have a business opportunity that says, hey, I can keep mom at home where she wants to be, and at the same time pay for her needed services. She may not be ready to go to assisted living today. She definitely doesn't want to go. But we can have an intermediate service that gives her an opportunity to be at home in a subscription manner, right? Also, and I loved Andy's speech earlier, we feel as family caregiver and also a sandwich generation individual, we feel like we need really simple tools to make sure mom's gotten up, make sure her blood pressures are in check, somebody is watching over her, that it's not me having to call and say, are you okay, what did you eat today, and how's your diabetes level, and what did you do about it? It gives me a dashboard. Virtual Health will provide me a dashboard as a caregiver so that I can have, in essence, peace of mind, right? Beautiful. All right, so when we also looked at this industry, we said you can't just deploy a series of telehealth services. Frankly, that's a boring strategy, and it doesn't work. We have to take a holistic approach to care. What does my mom care about? Well, she cares about her health. She cares, so I love to use the Continua devices when they're all connected with Chuck. She cares about care coordination, so the whole family wonders what's going on with mom. She cares about what she's eating, right, as well as how she's getting around, transportation, meds refill service, so those activities of daily living type of opportunities. And then last but not least, we have secure relationships with financial services partners. So the whole premise being, I have the opportunity to provide in one holistic approach a senior and a family caregiver a lower cost virtual assisted living experience at home. And at the same time, if in the case of one partnership, life care funding that allows an individual to draw off of a term life insurance, they can actually draw off of that fund to help pay for needed medical services like mine. So that's our strategy. It's real simple. We keep it holistic. We partner with the leading technology providers like Intel, GE, Care Innovations, as well as others. We partner with healthcare providers. So the whole premise being, because healthcare is so localized, my mom is not going to switch from the doctor she's had for the last 25 years. We will go to that physician. And because our service is not a covered service under Medicare or even insurance, we will tell the physician, because we need a good plan of care for my mom, Virtual Health will go ahead and reimburse them the equivalent of one office visit to set up a plan of care. Completely different than what a typical service provider would provide today. And so we're doing that because we want to try to align incentives, not just on a familial level, but also on the traditional healthcare provider, right? So now I've aligned the family unit. I've aligned the healthcare provider to say, you have a great interest to keep mom out of the hospital, and you don't know what happens to her between the 6 months between office visits. And we want you know that telehealth is great, but nobody's paying you to do it, so they won't do it. Well, forget it. We'll pay you. And that's been very well received. End of last year, we announced a partnership deal with American Association of Private Physicians, 1,000 concierge docs that will be teaching in Phoenix in February to jointly promote the virtual health service. That's the goal, right?
Thanks very much. Adam?
Actually, I've got two. Let me just cover one more. Let's just go down. This one is good. And so what we do is, the point that I wanted to make earlier was we try to be turnkey about it. We want to we don't need to manufacture the set-top box. but we want to be the Comcast, right? We will set it up, we'll train mom how to use it through our network of healthcare providers. We have all of the equipment already on a rental program, so they don't have to buy equipment. Nobody wants to buy a set-top box or a remote. And we have all of the care providers actually coming to us, wanting to partner and co-join and market our service. That's our goal. Thank you.
Is the clicker working, or are we? I think we're going manually. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Adam Vollmer. I'm a senior engineer at IDEO. For those of you maybe not familiar with IDEO, we are a global design firm. We work with clients in virtually every industry, designing new products, services, experience, and strategies. You could take our very diverse portfolio and probably distill it down to saying that we design according to a single philosophy, which we call human-centered design. And that means, quite simply, that we design first and foremost for people. Our design decisions are informed by a really deep understanding of the needs, both explicit and implicit, of the people that we hope our work will touch. So in the case of aging, this has a pretty profound implication. We actually try really hard not to design for a particular age or even an age group. We find that as we grow older, as we become a more diverse population, our experiences, our preferences, our needs really don't necessarily reflect our age in any coherent way at all. Really reinforcing the fact that the design needs to solve problems for people with unique needs. So I just wanted to give one example of work IDEO has done recently, not related specifically to aging, but related to designing communities for a population with a really specific set of emotional, physical, and mental needs. And that was the work that we did with Clark Realty Capital, which we call the Wounded Warrior Program. So Clark Realty is a real estate developer that saw an opportunity to develop new homes and communities for veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. What I think is exceptional about the work is that in addition to tackling the sorts of physical problems, the like that Louis referred to earlier with access, wheelchair access throughout the house, general ADA compliance, the team really went beyond those features and tackled sort of the holistic set of emotional and mental needs that both soldiers and their families have nowadays. And I think a great example that came out of that is constant redeployment is a tremendous burden on military families. So much so to the extent that many families don't have either the time or the will to even unpack their boxes when they move. So boxes will literally stack up in hallways and kitchens. A simple nod to that, the team designed bigger garages with a library-style sliding archival system to let families sort of, in a systematic way, archive and shelve and store their boxes without having to have them literally pile in their living room. So it's a great story. If you're curious, there's a lot more information and a great video at the IDEO website. But I wanted to move on to the topic of mobility. As we think about designing communities of the future, whether it's for veterans or seniors, mobility is a prime concern, and this has come up before today. I heard a couple of comments that cars are central to independence, and I wanted to maybe, if I can, just propose like a slight riff on that mobility is central to independence, and cars are one form in which we can have mobility throughout our lives. Cars, unfortunately, for all their many benefits, cars are great. Cars, unfortunately, have a lot of distinct drawbacks, too, and chief among them is that as we get older, cars become less and less appropriate for this really big growing segment of our population, which is our seniors. So a number of issues associated with cars. Cost of ownership of a vehicle can become a big liability for somebody on a fixed income. There are definite, distinct safety issues for ourselves and others with driving as we get older. And maybe in a more intangible sense, communities that are reliant on cars, we can maybe characterize as communities that are maybe lower density, more suburban, areas where seniors are more likely to be at risk of isolation if access to that car goes away. And I think that's a big risk to our senior population as we think about aging in place that we should all be aware of. So this all begs the question, how might we think of better mobility alternatives for seniors? So if you were to think about healthier, more enjoyable alternative modes of transportation, bicycles are a natural part of the picture. And indeed, many of the most vibrant communities in the US and Europe have really embraced a really thriving bicycle culture. Places like San Francisco and Portland, Minneapolis, Austin. Nevertheless, there are very, very real impediments to more widespread adoption of cycling amongst the population as a whole. And this is really an age-independent phenomenon, right? So it's quite intimidating to get on a bike for the first time, whether you just finished college or whether you just finished putting a kid through college. So how might we tackle that? About a year ago, IDEO was asked to submit a bicycle for a design competition called the Oregon Manifest. It was kind of one of the premier bike design contests in the US. I was really fortunate to get to lead that work. And the bicycle that came out of that is the one you see here on the screen. It's called the Faraday. So while the sort of the design language of the bike, its cues sort of take a reference from bikes that are maybe more than 100 years old, the bike itself, it really is cutting edge. This is an electric bicycle. Everything from the drivetrain to the brakes to the microcontrollers, the sensors, and the batteries that are hidden in the frame are all state of the art. So as our team looked at how we might tackle these challenges that make it really difficult for people of all ages to take on cycling, electric assist was a really, really natural and compelling technology. So I just want to talk maybe a little bit about some of the reasons why this bike is different. Different both from other bikes out there and maybe more importantly different from other electric bikes out there. And I would say that this is an ageless bike. It appeals not to our need for a mobility assist or for a bike that's easier to ride, but for an iconic piece of design and an exhilarating experience. And that is truly an age-independent proposition. I can attest, as somebody who's ridden this bike all over the hills of San Francisco, that you don't have to be 60 to have a fantastic time riding a bike like this. And that's an exciting proposition. So the reception we've had to this has been really great. And it gets me excited to think about what electric bicycles can mean in livable communities. So, sorry, one back. We should look at the slide. I think that if we think about the boomer generation, this is an active generation, a dynamic generation, a generation that increasingly seeks ways to be healthy and more active later into life. And this is also a generation, I think, that increasingly we see seeking alternatives to the lifestyle. We see more people becoming empty nesters and moving from the suburbs to the cities, seeking a more urban experience. Regardless, I think, of where you live, bicycling certainly is an intimate form of transportation. And it's a way of getting around that gets you out of your car, that gets you more in touch with your community, with your environment. It eliminates the stress of driving. It really is a really progressive way to think about getting around. So, So these, I think, are really things that I see as being consistent with trends in communities. All that aside, I think one of the biggest values that we can see in electric mobility is the health value. So going back to the question of mobility, if mobility is a key to our independence, then certainly health is a key to our mobility. And the proposition of electric bicycles is to lower the barriers of entry to a more active and healthy lifestyle. The more fit and the stronger that a bicycle like this can make us feel, the more fit and the more strong we're likely to actually become. This is a classic example of what IDEO's general manager, Tom Kelly, would call an empowerment product. So I'm excited to say that electric bicycles really are in an exciting boom time right now. Throughout Europe, throughout Asia, we've seen like quite a large rise in the sales of bikes. I think the US might be a little bit behind the curve, but quite strong growth is forecast in that market. A very important comment, I think, is that one thing the US lacks that has been very present in Europe is an active investment in infrastructure to promote safe cycling in our communities. So I think that if these are the types of communities and the types of mobility solutions we hope to see, we do need to think very actively about what investments we make to support them and make them more approachable and safer for people. Just a final comment, this is certainly not a plea for us all to abandon our cars or sell our cars or take up bikes exclusively. I think rather the point is that the longer that we can stay active and healthy later in life, the more likely we are to have more options later to consider alternatives for our transportation around our communities, whether that be by foot or by bus or by car or by electric bike. So I encourage you to think about that, and thank you very much for your time.
Okay, what we're going to do, we have a little bit of out of sync here, but that's okay. I'm going to introduce to you, this is Fred Allegrezza, who is our CEO of Telikin. And Fred is actually, he was going to speak on the intergenerational connectivity of grandparents and grandchildren and the power of that. So I'm going to switch to his slides really quickly, and then after he speaks, we'll go to the Q&A for this panel.
Okay, well, thank you. As Sarah said, I'm Fred Allegrezza, CEO of Telikin, and what we do is we actually build a easy-to-use computer designed for seniors. Basically, we're on the other side of mobility, if you will, using this thing called the internet. I hear they say it's getting popular. Basically bringing services and connecting people electronically and allowing services to come to them. If you can go to the next slide. I'm sorry. So one of the things I think about us humans is that we're a very social species. We like to connect with people. We have social groups, family groups, religious groups, or faith groups. We even have this crazy notion of getting 120,000 people all to come to the same city in the same week, and we think that's fun. So we do want to socialize. So what we saw is that seniors, as they age, tend to get into isolated, whether they're at home or in assisted living facilities. I also have a mother who is a stroke victim, 84 years old, and when she moved into assisted living, we wanted a better way to stay connected with her. And I have to give a lot of credit to my brother, who actually configured a Mac to auto-answer Skype calls and be able to do video conference calls and be able to send photos to her without her having to know how to use email or know how to use the internet. So it was a great way to stay in touch. So what we've really done, as I said, as we age, we tend to get isolated, whether job transfers or for whatever reasons, or retirements to Florida. Our families get separated, and whether it's the parent is still living at the family home and the kids have all moved away for various jobs and growing families in other cities, our goal was really to reduce that isolation and keep families connected, and that's really been our mission with this product. So what we really looked at is the key ways of staying in touch with our seniors is really through email, sharing photos. We have a connection to Facebook, where I assume a lot of folks here are a lot like my family, where anytime one of my brothers and sisters goes on vacation or has a wedding or some sort of event, they post pictures on Facebook. And again, my mom doesn't know how to go on Facebook or get it, but the computer actually pulls in those photos and makes them readily available. So the other thing is really the web. Basically, obviously, the internet is a great source for information and staying connected. And obviously, part of having a computer for seniors is really trying to get it to make it work well with the web and stay connected. I think the other, it's surprising. We actually have a big part of our business is really providing support telephone support for these folks to help them get their email to work, get themselves registered on Facebook or even seniorchristiandating.com. It's really interesting. These people are very vibrant and very alive, and we have folks anywhere from in their 40s to 102. I actually, when we have peak demands, I actually like to take a few of the support calls just to keep getting to know our customers. But, you know, talking to a gentleman that's 97 and literally said, this is great. I'm so happy that now I can be in the circle of connections. So that's what we're trying to do, is really keep people connected, bring those services to them. So UPS and FedEx do a great job of shipping goods to folks so they don't have to go. See, I live in Pennsylvania, where this time of year we have very cold weather, snow, and it's just not the environment that seniors want to go out in. So using the internet allows them to bring products to them and get them shipped. So as I said, as an example, I like to bring up this example of my mom and her granddaughter, Alexis. We have a video phone service, and I don't know if you've ever done the old give the phone to the 4-year-old and say, hey, say hello to grandmom. And they sit there and they say nothing. So with video chat, it's a great way. Alexis is very shy, great-granddaughter actually, and she didn't say a word. My mom was on the other end of the phone, but Alexis showed her every toy she got for Christmas. Took about 10 minutes. They both communicated. My mom has, again, she's stroke and has speech impediment, so she doesn't really speak that well, but the two of them communicated for 10 minutes without a word being said. So that's the kind of thing we're trying to do, is really make them feel connected, even though physically they may live isolated, but make them have the opportunity to be connected. So again, it's really, the idea is, as a technical product, it's, you know, a touchscreen computer, easy to use. Those are the things we really build in. But really, the benefit is the social connectivity for seniors to stay in touch, to stay in that family loop where we're all sharing emails and photos and keeping everybody in touch. The idea is to bring that senior, or even a you know, not so senior person, into that loop, so they're connected in to know what's going on with the family. So we're very excited about it. A big part of it is, as I said, support. I was actually looking over the shoulder of one of our support folks, and I saw one of our customers. I mean, literally, we have a little log that shows what they called about and what they're talking about. 74 calls in 2 months. I thought, well, that's okay. That's our business. That they like to communicate. They build friendships with the folks in our support. But again, that's what it's about. And they do like to talk. We try to keep our calls reasonably short so we can get on to the next person that needs some help. But it is a social aspect as well as just a technical product. And to be honest, this last year has been very rewarding for myself and the people in our company to really get that connection with folks. So hopefully we are the other end of all the connected health devices that allows the senior to be connected with their information, with everything, with their family. And you want to go on? This is just a picture about how the Facebook is easy to access. But the bottom line is, we're very excited that we can actually be a part of that puzzle of keeping all these services tied in from an interface to the senior citizen.